What's going on, ProGuides fam? Welcome back to another Wild Rift video. My name is Kangas, and today I'll be teaching you about the 10 best champions to main in Wild Rift. This list is not the 10 most OP, or the 10 most popular, or even the 10 most fun. No, this list is the 10 best champions for you to invest your time into if you want results. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Starting off at number 10, we have Zed. This champion is always a popular pick if you like to Omewamu Shindaru your opponents. Remember kids, cool guys don't look at explosions, and neither does Zed. His ultimate is the biggest selling point of his kit as an assassin, giving you a way to get in and more importantly, get out, and leave your opponents face down in the dirt. Zed has a high skill ceiling and his mobility and mind games are just a small part of his appeal. Most players pick him up for the first time thinking he's an absolute breeze, but his laning phase leaves a lot to be desired since it's mostly based around his shuriken skill shot to last hit and also poke at the same time. If you main Zed, you'll always feel like there's something to work on and get better at, whether it's roaming, laning against difficult matchups, or even execution when it comes to your assassinations. I highly recommend Zed for those who like a challenge but also like to style, and for assassin players in general. At number 9, we got another champion where style is the name of the game, and no, that's not a pun because of his lack of fashion sense. Lee Sin, the Blind Monk, is an incredibly difficult champion to play, master, and main. But oh, is he worth it. Ever since his release on the PC version of League of Legends, his montage moments have known no end. Lee Sin has mobility, damage, playmaking that can turn the entire game around, and also has early game pressure to boot. Because Lee Sin is skill shot based, he's another champion where he scales with your experience and mechanics. A Lee Sin played by a really good player will always feel like he's somehow doing way more damage than you do when you play him. The pressure he can exert in his games gives him a lot of agency, and I highly recommend giving him a shot in the jungle if you like being in control of the fate of the game right from the get-go. Because he's such a mechanically intensive champion though, don't just try him in ranked right away. Go check out ProGuides.com first and get one of our coaches to walk you through exactly how to play him. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Number 8 is going to be another difficult champion to master, and that's the new marksman, Draven. Draven deals the most damage out of any marksman early on in the game if he continues to keep using his spinning axes in the air. The fact that he also gains bonus gold if he stacks up his passive means he's the ideal snowballing champion. If you like bringing the pain in the lane and bullying your opponents without them being able to retaliate, Draven is 100% the champ for you. This guy's idea of fun is when no one else is allowed to have any. He's new to Wild Rift on patch 1.1, but he's definitely a champ to pick up and test out if you felt your games haven't been in your control as a marksman. Draven players always control the early game, for better or for worse. Next up, we have Vayne at number 7. Vayne is a champion that may not always be the strongest, but she's always going to be fun in the late game. This champion has some of the lowest cooldown mobility in the game, and that mobility is also tied to being aggressive. In order for her mobility to begin its cooldown, she has to release the empowered attack tied to her tumble. If you don't shoot anything with the tumble and are tumbling away from an enemy, the cooldown will naturally be longer, because you have to wait for the empowered attack to expire before the cooldown starts ticking back up. Because of this, she is ideal for players who like to play a champion that may not have the best stats in the game and has to avoid damage to increase how long you can stay in the fight, while also positioning yourself aggressively. That sounds like a lot, and trust me, it is. Vayne is not for those who like to stay at a range. Vayne is for those who like to face roll over the keyboard and dash into their opponents to take a 1v5. Next up, we have our first support at number 6, Blitzcrank. This steam-powered golem is a fan and player favorite. His trademark hook is the staple playmaking ability in any MOBA. Even if he's not supposed to deal a lot of damage or be incredibly durable, Blitzcrank's idea of supporting his team is playing fetch and bringing them a delicious enemy carry for your team to gang up on. You can play the whole game missing every ability possible, but if you land that one hook in the late game on the right person, ooh, it feels good. Nothing else you messed up in the game matters anymore, and your team will instantly sing your praises, giving you an immediate 4 honor votes. Alright, maybe that's a little extreme, but still, this is what Blitzcrank does. And the best part is, if you actually become good with Blitzcrank, he will feel unstoppable. You'll be landing hooks left and right, pressuring your opponents from minute 1, and roaming around to lanes that your opponents will think you have no business being in. But little do they know, you're in the business of hooking, and business is good. For our 5th best champion to main, we have Ezreal. Another skill shot based champ that you'll have endless amounts of fun playing and perfecting. Ezreal is a low cooldown and highly interactive champion for the person playing him. For your opponent, not so much. Ezreal's slippery, hard to catch, and very punishing to try and gank. With his built-in mobility and damage, Ezreal can soften up the competition, reposition, chase, and even pick people off with relative ease. If you enjoy playing the marksman role but find that most of those champs are too squishy or easy to dive on top of, Ezreal is absolutely who you should be picking up and maining. The better you get with him, the more damage he'll be dealing by constantly landing those skill shots, which reduce the cooldown of his other abilities and allow him to chain more and more poke together. The better you are with Ezreal, the better he is. And once you truly master Ezreal, you'll even be able to weave in basic attacks with your abilities while still maintaining proper distance. And as we approach the top 4 champions we think you should be maining in Wild Rift, I want to throw you our question of the day. When picking a champion to main, what are the factors that you consider? For me, I consider a champion a potential main if I lose a game but still feel like at any moment I could have made a game-changing play. It also doesn't hurt if I'm having fun too. If I feel like I always had a potential way to get back into it, even if I was sitting at 0-4, then I usually feel like that's a champion that's worth investing in because even if it gets nerfed, I'll probably still keep playing it. Let us know your answers in the comments below. Now, on to our top 4. At number 4, we have a mid laner, Orianna. Orianna is a champion that takes a lot of skill to play, especially in the Wild Rift. Having to control your position, your attacks, and your ball becomes an absolute juggling act that pays off in spades if you can manage it. Her playmaking potential with her ultimate is one of the most impactful teamfighting tools in the entire game. Most of the champions on our list thus far have all been able to either assassinate, make huge 1v1 plays, or just have high mobility in general. But Orianna has that massive teamfight impact that someone who likes to carry, support, or just decimate their enemies can't enjoy. The versatility of Orianna is what is most appealing about her. She's got poke, she's got utility, and also she's got damage. She's been called the most balanced champion on the PC version of the game for years. And she doesn't have a lot of terrible matchups either. She always has a way to deal or at least neutralize most of them. And as you get better and better with her, she's a mage that also wants to weave in basic attacks due to her passive increasing the damage of each auto. This teaches mage players a very useful skill in auto-attacking between abilities and rewards you for it. Now for number 3. This one might surprise some of you, it's Darius. I know, he just hit the Rift on patch 1.1, but stay with me here. Darius is the Baron lane equivalent to Draven. But remember when I said that Draven is the type of champion for people who like to bully their enemies without retaliation? Yeah, Darius does that too. Except he also lets his opponents retaliate against him in melee range and then have them get that sinking feeling of horror and despair wash over them as they realize they can't really compete with his damage and try and run away unsuccessfully. The catch there though, as they try and run away. Darius's abilities are insane. He's got a really low cooldown slow and auto attack reset, an AoE hook that pulls enemies back into him, and a massive execute that can reset. Darius is down to brawl, right from level 1, and he's definitely not for those who like to play it safe in lane. Darius's passive requires him to stack up attacks on enemy champions to gain a large amount of bonus stats when he reaches 5 stacks. That was a lot, but essentially what it means is he won't feel overwhelming at first, but if you can keep up the attacks and your opponents think that they actually can take you on, you suddenly flip the tables on them and chop their heads off. And the best part is, if one of them was stupid enough to fight you and you execute him with your ultimate, their team pays the price for their foolishness. Once you've executed an enemy champion with your guillotine, you reset the cooldown and can continue using your ultimate right away. The amount of damage, playmaking, and just straight up pentakills you'll be seeing in the next few months with this champion will be crazy. I suggest you be on the giving side of the pentakills rather than the receiving end. As we come to the end of our list, our number 2 is Akali. This champion is difficult, and I mean difficult to play, let alone master. She has many mechanics that are unique to her kit, and you'll definitely need to put a lot of effort and repetition to her to feel like you've got a good grasp on how she plays. That being said, oh god, is she rewarding to play well. Once you've gotten past the hurdle of trying to figure out how her abilities work together, the amount of highlight reel plays you can go for that just involve raw damage and outplaying your opponent is what makes an Akali player an Akali player. When you run into someone who knows this champion inside and out, they just hit different. Not only are you trying to dodge their poke and harass, every time you take any damage, you have to worry about the follow-up damage she's capable of landing with her kit. Her dashes, her ability to chase, and her shroud all make her a champion that is perfect for those who like guerrilla warfare and have no trouble or shame implementing hit and run tactics. I know hit and run implies you whittle your opponent down first, but most of the time Akali just hits and then runs away from a corpse. And here we are at our number 1 best champion to main in Wild Rift. Let me just say, this list was not easy to make. And of course, it's something that we spent a lot of time considering what we would like to recommend. There's already a lot of really good and fun champions in Wild Rift, but the truth is, champions won't always stay good. Sometimes you get buffed to hell and now everyone's either picking them first or banning them in your games. So when it comes to our number 1, we really considered the fun aspect as our top criteria. I'm a little nervous to do this one, but let's reveal him anyway. The champion we think is the best to main in Wild Rift is Yasuo. Love him or hate him, Yasuo is one of the best designed champions in all of Wild Rift. From his kit, to the way his lore weaves in with his design, and most importantly, how he plays. Yasuo is a low cooldown, high damage, low durability, and conditionally high mobility champion. Yasuo relies on chasing, dodging, and incredibly high mechanical play, as well as decision making to make the best use of him. Yasuo can change the entire flow of a game with his ultimate, his wind wall, and of course his damage. The big downfall of Yasuo players, obviously, is his lack of durability. Yasuo is as squishy as most marksmen, deals the same amount of damage as them, but is unfortunately a melee champion. And that's the biggest reason why we believe Yasuo is one of the best designed champions in either the mobile version or even the PC version of League of Legends. Despite being squishy, he's found some incredibly unique solutions to the problem of being a melee champ. Typically, designers get lazy, and if a melee champion needs to get into melee range to deal damage, they either give them a gap closer or just increase their armor, magic resist, and health, or their gear or itemization towards that. I mean, think about it. How many bruisers are there that get in, deal damage, and are hard to kill because they're just a stat check? Either they're too tanky, or they just lifesteal off of their damage. A lot of them. So, how is Yasuo well designed in that sense? Well, Yasuo has conditional high mobility if there's minions and other enemies around, a small shield that is also conditional on him from his passive, making sure he moves around a lot to get it, and then of course he's got his wind wall. A lot of new players get really frustrated with wind wall, but for experienced players, it's the most elegant design solution ever to the problem of having too much damage and then gaining durability to combat the problem of being a melee champion. Wind wall is a temporary way for you to become more durable, but only against ranged attacks. It also requires you to aim it, use it at just the right time, and has a decently long cooldown on it so it isn't constantly providing you some benefit, like having just more stats would. On top of this, Yasuo gaining more crit strike chance from items is what forces you to itemize towards the damage rather than durability. Yasuo is a masterclass in how to make a champion unique, fun, and feel like it takes skill to master and play well. Obviously, if you're against new players, they're not going to understand how to play against him and they might get frustrated. But against experienced players, Yasuo is oftentimes one of the hardest champions to pull off, and that's what makes him balanced in high elo. Oh, and one more cool thing about Yasuo, he's a Ronin, a wanderer who never has a place he belongs, and is therefore restless. Yasuo's passive reflects this, charging up a shield as he moves around. This encourages you as a player to never stop moving. Yasuo is strongest both in his lore and in actual gameplay when he isn't sitting still. That's cool.
Now I know, League of Legends fans are gonna be really upset about our number 1, but remember, this is Wild Rift, not League, so try it out before making your judgment. Or don't and just keep shaming people from trying him. I don't really mind either way, but make sure to let us know your top choices to main in the comments down below. Which ones do you agree or disagree with? I'd love to know your thoughts. Also, if you like the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single future release. That's all for now, but as always, good luck on the Rift. Stay hydrated and wash your hands.